Hi everybody, thanks so much for joining me on this IGTV wedding planning tip series thing that I'm doing. I'm really excited today. I have Laura with me, who is a humanist celebrant, and we're going to chat all things humanist ceremonies because I think planning the questions for this one, I know I had a ton of questions. So hi Laura, thanks for joining me.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, great, thanks so much for coming on. So we met a couple of years ago, very briefly, but I was second shooting for the lovely Danny Salmon photography, and from there I started following on Instagram and kind of got into the world of knowing what you guys do. But I still never know what the correct terminology is. Is it like just celebrant-led ceremony or celebrant-led wedding, humanist?
Yeah, well, a celebrant-led ceremony means that someone who is not a registrar, who is a celebrant, will turn up to conduct your ceremony. And it could be someone like myself, a humanist celebrant, or it could be an independent celebrant. And we offer slightly different things, but saying a celebrant-led ceremony, that kind of covers all of us. Although I get called all sorts of things. I've been called a celebrationist.
Okay.
I've been called a celibate, which that was one of my least favourites. But yeah, I'm a humanist celebrant.
Humanist celebrant. Okay, awesome. And do you just do weddings then, or what does that cover with your, what is it, you do with in that role?
I do weddings and baby namings. Definitely do more weddings than the baby namings, but yes, other humanist celebrants also do funerals, but that's not something that I have trained in yet. So just the kind of, I was going to say just the positive stuff, but then I think that humanist funerals are all about celebrating life, so they're positive in a different way, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. I guess it's a really interesting job from your point of view, because you tell me a bit about how you do your job. Like, obviously you get to, when couples book you, what's the process for how you get to the point of the ceremony?
Well, I'm someone who gets bored really easily, and the thing that I really like about my job is that because every ceremony is specific to that couple, no two are ever the same. So it's all about taking time to get to know each couple. So usually it will start with a kind of really friendly, informal chat. It used to be at the pub, but it is mostly on Zoom at the moment, sadly. Yeah. And that's the kind of opportunity to check whether there's like a good rapport and a good relationship, whether you've got sort of like chemistry with one another, I suppose. But then the process, once you've actually decided that you want to work with a specific celebrant, is you can talk to them as much or as little as you want in between the time that you book and when you get married. So for some couples, I barely hear anything from them until the point that I'm doing their like planning session, which is usually a few hours long, again, ideally in person, somewhere really relaxed where we can just sit and chat about them and their life and their relationship. But yeah, it's a chance to try and understand what makes that couple's relationship and their kind of love unique and different, because we all love in different ways. We all show our affection in different ways, and it takes time to get to know that about people. So yeah, some people I literally just hear from when we have that meeting, and other people will be like on holiday reading a book and they'll phone me and be like, oh my god, I've just read this amazing paragraph in this book, can I have it in my wedding? And I'm there for all of those
Of course.
Yeah. It's nice to be thought of.
And definitely I've had couples text me pictures of them on their honeymoon and stuff, and I just love it. because it means that we've become friends, and you know,
yeah.
I'm part of their life now, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, I love it too. And like when a couple that I've married posts that they're pregnant or that they've had a baby or something, oh my gosh, it is just like, as soon as you've shared a moment like somebody's wedding day with them in a really sort of profound way, talking about love and feelings and hopes, it's like you're always going to be connected to them just with a little sort of strand forever.
And you must really create a bond then, because like you say, you find out all about their history and their, like, how they've got together, and then I guess maybe some couples might be worried that they have to write stuff, but you kind of in your own way will interview them, for want of a better word, and
it's a very painless procedure. I promise.
You'll get all that information out of them, I guess, won't you? And then you will beautifully put it together.
Yeah, I mean, some couples want to write elements themselves. Like loads of couples choose to write their own vows, and even in the cases where couples are nervous about doing that, if you have a good celebrant, they will guide you through that process as well. They'll give you help. I'm a big fan of when couples include a section where they say what they love about one another, because I think all of your friends and family are there on the day for the couple. They're not there for me, the celebrant. So the more that they hear actually directly from the couple, the better, as far as I'm concerned. They are the star attraction. But people have different kind of comfort levels about writing and about speaking in front of people. And so it's a very wide scale, and wherever you sit on that line, your celebrant will work with you to find something that feels like you've struck just the right balance of sort of being brave and putting yourself out there because it's a big day and you want to make it count, but also not pushing you so that you're so like ridden with nerves and anxiety that you can't enjoy the whole thing. So they'll take on as much or as little as you want.
Yeah, and I always find that people are worried about the speeches part of the day, because it's, you know, standing up in front of someone and talking when perhaps you're not necessarily used to doing that. And I always say, but it's everyone that you know and love, and so don't like try. I know it's a worry, but try not to, because they just want to hear what you have to say, and they're there to celebrate your day, aren't they?
Yeah. And I think as well, sometimes when people, I really love writing about people's kind of stories. I love telling, you know, their friends and family the kind of details of how things happened. What were they wearing on the first night that they met, and what happened when their eyes kind of met across the crowded dance floor or whatever it was. I love writing all of that stuff. But for some people, if they choose to include elements that they have written, they feel really nervous because talking about love is like this big subject, this big topic that millions and millions of people have been trying to put words to for all this time. And so
it's a vulnerability,
massively. But my advice has always been to be really specific. Like, you don't need to write about love in the way that people write about it in books or in greetings cards. Like, people want to know what your love is like how you connect. And so the more specific you are, the more personal it feels, but also the easier it is to write, because you're not trying to make something up, you're just trying to share something which is true. So
I feel a bit emotional.
We're all very vulnerable at the moment.
You know what I watched last night? I absolutely love season 2 of Fleabag, and look at me, and I watched the last episode where he talks about love is horrid and all that, and I was like,
yeah, love is awful. It's
yeah,
awful.
yeah. It's like makes you think about your hair and stuff. I was like, love this. Oh,
Yeah.
right, sorry, got all a bit.
No, it's okay.
Oh,
I feel
right.
the same when I think about Andrew in his priest's garb. Anyway.
Yes. Oh, right. Sorry, just you're in such a lovely flow there, and I've started getting all like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with me. Do you? I know obviously you're a humanist celebrant, so would the couple have to be humanists? Like, do they have to be in a club or something?
No. There's no club, there's no like humanist church equivalent. I don't know, people who book me tend to be in two camps, and camp one is the people who really strongly identify as being humanist and as following and living by kind of humanist values. And that's great, because there should be a ceremony which celebrates that belief. It might not be a religious belief, but there should be something which enables people to get married in a way that celebrates those specific values. So that's kind of camp one. And then camp two is the people who had never heard of humanism, still don't really know what humanism is, but know that they didn't want to get married in a church or a religious space because they're not religious, and didn't want something that was kind of cold and a bit officious, like a registry office. And through investigating what other opportunities there might be out there, they kind of stumble across me. Actually, there's one more, and that's when people want really badly to have their ceremony somewhere that isn't licensed. Okay. Because a registrar can only conduct legal ceremonies at licensed venues, but a humanist celebrant or a celebrant in general, an independent celebrant, can do a ceremony anywhere, or at least pre-corona they could. Yeah. So
okay, so I think
people fall into different categories, but no, the simple answer is no, you don't have to be a humanist to have a humanist wedding. I should just have said that. That would have been much quicker.
I think personally I would fall into number 2. Definitely. And I feel like we could probably do a whole other chat about humanist and what is that and all sorts.
Yeah.
But I don't want to stick with the wedding planning.
Hijack.
Yeah. But so it's not a legal ceremony when you're conducting it then? It's
no, sadly not.
Yeah.
So humanist weddings are legal in Scotland, Northern Ireland, Jersey, but not in England and Wales currently, although it's hoped that when the government complete their marriage commission review, which is currently in progress, it's hoped that the result of that is that humanist ceremonies will be given legal status here as well. But no, currently couples who I marry tend to also go to the registry office and have what's called a statutory marriage. So it involves pretty much just signing on the dotted line, and there's no kind of grand ceremony. You just have 2 witnesses and yourselves, and it usually costs somewhere around £60. Right. And I would say 95% of my couples do that somewhere close to their wedding date, a few days before or a few days after, and then have their humanist ceremony as the bit that everybody comes to and that is treated as the real deal.
So you can so it'll feel like that's the joining of the marriage bit, and all the guests will feel like that. And can you do exchanging of rings? And obviously you mentioned they can have their own vows and things, but can you exchange rings?
Yeah, absolutely. And also when you have a statutory marriage at the registry office, you can choose not to exchange rings then. so that you haven't already done it. You save that moment until your humanist wedding, and then you can do it there. And the same with your vows. You can choose the most basic and brief vows for your registry office moment, and then have something more elaborate, more meaningful for your humanist wedding. Nothing should feel like it's a repeat. It should all feel fresh and new and meaningful. Yeah.
I just love the idea of it being so personal and about their story, and all, like you say, all about their love and stuff. Making me emotional. Oh, me.
Pull yourself together, come on.
Right, and I guess because it's, you know, you were saying earlier, they can have singing or readings, or you're happy to kind of make it all whatever they would like to do as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, no two weddings are ever the same. So if you want to enter as a couple, rather than you know, one of you being walked down the aisle by your parent, if you want to enter coming down the aisle in an open top vintage Land Rover with like explosions going off, and then you want to have everybody sing the Beatles, and then you want to it's literally like, if you want it and it's, you know, and legally consenting adults are involved and I can keep my clothes on, I will make it happen.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So, and also, yes, you can have readings and songs. That was what you really wanted, wasn't it?
Naked people hanging out of Land Rovers with explosions.
I mean, anything goes. I once had a couple who really wanted to enter riding together in the scoop of a digger on the front of their tractor. And then on the day, it was absolutely pouring with rain, like torrential rain. And so all the plans got changed. But
that would have been good. I would have loved to see the photos for that one. And I should mention, from a photography point of view, the weddings where they have been celebrant led, they're so chilled with me as a photographer. They're just like, yeah, do what you want to do, because I find that in some like registrars or churches, you get told to stand in one place, don't move, and it's kind of finding a balance between, you're there to capture the wedding for the couple, but obviously you want to be respectful for what the day is. But yeah, I guess, do you have any restrictions for people like me, or?
No, I don't have any restrictions really. I mean, there are lots of restrictions currently. And I think it's important to say that one thing that I think is a real strength of celebrant-led weddings at the moment is that they can bring meaning and a kind of lightness to a ceremony that might otherwise feel like it is very weighed down by all of the restrictions that are currently in place. So having a celebrant for a micro wedding, I think, is a real asset right now. It's an opportunity for things not to just feel like you're ticking the boxes and kind of going through the motions of a strange wedding happening at really extraordinary times. You can still have something that has lightness and humor and a kind of human touch, even without the human touch, because we're not meant to do that bit, but you know what I mean, like it won't just be going through the motions.
And I've been saying to some of my couples who are thinking of doing the legal bit now with the restrictions, and then having still a big day next year, that to think about what next year they don't have to go to a church or the registry office or have the registrar come to the venue, because there are options like you guys who can do what you do and make it really, really lovely, and still seem like, for everyone there involved, that it's still their wedding day. And
And there's the flip side to that as well, is that I know that a lot of couples are facing real difficulties in trying to book registrars at the moment. There's a massive backlog caused by when we were completely locked down, and the restrictions being placed on registrars are much stronger than ever. So it's really difficult to get a slot if you haven't already got something booked in. So I think there's also an opportunity for couples who don't want to cancel their wedding because their registrar can't do it anymore, to still have a wedding that feels like a wedding, even if they're not doing the legal bit until later down the line when they can take care of the kind of paperwork side of it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. That, yeah, 100%. That's definitely something I can suggest, that you can still have the wedding day on the day and then go and do the signing of the papers as soon as possible afterwards. It doesn't have to be the papers first and then the wedding, does it? It can be the other way around.
The week before last, I got a call on a Wednesday night. It was about 8 or 9 o'clock, from a couple who, for one reason or another, less than 48 hours before their wedding, their registrar pulled out. And they were left in the situation where they had already postponed their wedding twice. They were meant to be getting married in Mexico. They could no longer do that. They had booked an alternative for 15 people, and then their registrar bailed on them. And so I stepped in, and it meant that they were still able to have that wedding on the Friday, even though we had only spent, Wednesday evening chatting, and it was a really unusual way for me, especially, to work. It made something possible that wasn't going to be possible otherwise.
That is so lovely as well, that you're able to step in and help them in that way.
It was nice. It was nice to be working.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to check my questions.
Yeah.
So how soon, I guess you're like everybody else, just get booked. If people are interested in booking you, they should book you as soon as they kind of know that they want to go down this avenue.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, especially because next year is really full with this year's postponements. So don't dilly-dally. Don't dilly-dally.
And I get, well, the next question is going to be about how long does the ceremony last, but with everything that we've talked about, it can be as long as they want it to, I guess, or as short, or...
Yeah, I mean, I would say the shortest wedding I've done is probably 20 minutes, and the longest I've done is probably an hour. And the difference between the two comes down to things like how many readings they chose, how many songs they wanted, and most importantly, when we were talking and planning, it comes down to how much a couple tells you. Because if you say to someone, so tell me what you love most about your partner, and they say, oh, I don't know, she's just really nice. That's going to be a different length of ceremony to someone who's like, well, let me just tell you. and what you end up with, like what a couple gives is going to affect what they get.
Yeah.
So the more you tell me, the better.
Do you ever find that there's one partner out of the two who needs a little bit more encouragement to open up? And
often.
Yeah.
Often. And all of those sexist cliches about it being the grooms, a bride might do lots of talking. No, it's rubbish. I've married plenty of very conversational grooms and shy brides, and I have married lots of same-sex couples where one person is very happy to talk at length and one can't think of any of the things they want to say, even though they feel them all really deeply.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a process, but I'm very gentle with everyone.
I can imagine you are, yeah. The last kind of, I think we've covered everything with with what I was wanting to talk to you about. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
No worries.
I did a little bit of research yesterday. I was coming up with some questions as well, and one of the questions I did see online was about if perhaps family members are very religious and will decide to go with you. You know, obviously, from our conversation, I know you're not going to, but you're not going to come, you know, they're not going to be offended, are there? Or are they? Or if there was a particular element or tradition from their religion that they would love to be included, are you open to that? Or
yeah, it's really interesting. I think that, well, to answer the first part of that question, every single guest who attends a ceremony that I would lead should feel welcome and included, and regardless of what faith they have or what background they're from or any of those things. It's something that is for everyone. Celebrating love is like universally good, like full stop. But the other thing is, so I personally, I tend not to include things like prayers and hymns in my ceremonies, because I have chosen to become a humanist celebrant because I'm non-religious, and I hope that a lot of the people who would come to me would be buying into that because they share that same feeling.
yeah.
But if they want to do something, I'm a big fan of celebrating culture. And if a couple have grown up around religion, or they have really religious parents or grandparents, or, you know, the church was a massive part of their childhood or something like that, there are loads of things that you can do to make sure that you pay tribute to someone's background and their culture without saying the Lord's Prayer. Like, you know, I'm trying to think of an example now.
Yeah, I photographed a wedding last year where the couple had a registrar in the venue, but the bride's family wanted a traditional Chinese tea ceremony at some point in the day, and it was so lovely. It was really, really nice. So,
yeah,
like you say, it's more.
I've done a wedding for a Jewish groom. He was from a Jewish family, but he didn't hold that faith himself, but he really wanted for it to be referenced because it was a massive part of his identity and of how he had grown up. And so at the end of the ceremony, we still did the smashing of the glass, because the symbolism of that is not necessarily rooted in Jewish religion. It's rooted in get all of the bad stuff over with now and start your marriage afresh. And that's not religious. That's universally good. And yeah, that wasn't a very clear way to answer, but basically culture is a big win.
Culture's a big win, and couples should do what they want to do, really. This is what I have a big thing about. Do what you want to do, and like exactly what you said, guests, parents, everyone there are there to celebrate their love, and that's the most important thing. They're coming together. So
yeah, and there's lots of times that you can apply lateral thinking to things and come up with new ways to kind of pay homage to something without it needing to be about prayer. I'm very creative.
Oh, I love it. This has been so good. I think we've covered all my. I thought I've had so many questions, didn't I? I emailed you and went, there's a lot of questions here. I'm so sorry. But is there anything else that you want to add? Anything you want to say for couples or who are perhaps thinking about this? Put you on the spot.
Well, I can't be unbiased. That is a big problem. I can't ever see why having a celebrant-led ceremony wouldn't be a good thing. I mean, I know that I think obviously if you yourself hold a really strong faith, then the opportunity to get married in a sacred space and for that to be blessed by something that you believe in I respect that, and I believe that that's 100% the right decision for those people. But if you don't fall into that category and you're umming and ahhing over whether to have a registrar or whether to have a celebrant, it's a no-brainer. Your celebrant will make your ceremony something that you and your friends and family will always remember. And you might not remember the exact words that were said, but you will literally always remember how it made you feel.
Yeah. Yes, Laura.
Yeah.
And and the weddings that I have photographed, I've photographed a couple now. There's always amazing reactions from the guests, because they laugh, like you tell anecdotes about how they met, and there's always usually something funny, and the guests love it, and they're, you know, I really love photographing those kind of weddings. So I think where you get the feeling. Yeah,
it's always really nice when the shots, when a couple shares their wedding album with me after the date. One of my favorite things is looking through the ceremony photos at the pictures of their friends and family, because people are really engaged, they're really they're reactive, they're not just sitting kind of passively po-faced waiting for the time to come when they can crack open the booze. They're attentively listening, and they're part of something. I love that. That's
really good.
I know I've done a good job.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So if anyone wants to ask any other questions, it's okay if they pop them in the comments or come over to your Instagram and private message you. Would that be okay?
Of course.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm very free at the moment. So, you know, anyone that has any questions, you just be helping to fill my day. It's almost like an intervention.
Oh, well, thank you so much. This has been
thanks.
I've really enjoyed it, and just hearing all about it, and you've made me cry. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, all right. See you soon. Thanks, Laura.
Bye.